Hey listeners, another episode of Journey with Michael and Ryan. Hello.
Hello.
How are we all doing this week? Michael is my name.
And Ryan is my name.
That's how we identify with ourselves.
That's it.
Yeah. Hey, brother, we get to talk about our Dharma today.
The breath.
The breath. Absolutely. They are our highest listened episodes that we put out, and something that we will continue to talk about till the day we
choose death.
Choose death. Yeah, exactly. And rebirthing is the method of breath that we've studied for 9 months. We've gone back. We are just finishing up our 12-month tutelage back under our teachers. We're apprenticing under them, so we can obviously go out and become trainers ourselves and start helping people, get into the depths themselves.
Yeah, man, helping people help people realistically, right? It's like taking the work that we do individually and in groups with clients and then essentially training facilitators to be able to do the same. And it's like a beautiful thing because it's beautiful work. It's powerful work. It's been the work that's transformed our lives the most, you could say.
Yeah.
The thing that we always go back to, along with other forms of plant medicines and different practices, but it's the Dharma. It's the reason why we've essentially even created Beta, right? Like it's the feeder. That's the end of the funnel.
Yeah.
Essentially, is for us to bring our rebirthing breathwork into the mainstream as much as we can and create an appetite for people and create a way in which it can actually be digested by the mainstream.
Yeah, and rebirthing breathwork, I would say, as an overall, just as an overall of knowing this particular type of breath, it's probably one of the least well-known ones. So if you've been into breathwork or you understand, or you've done any breathwork, everyone's heard of the Wim Hof method. He's done a really good job over the last decade of really putting breathwork into, onto the phones and lives of people in a very fun way on a mass scale that really hasn't been seen. I don't think. I mean, when you say breathwork to people, if they don't really understand, they go, "Oh, yeah, is that breath you do in yoga?" Because yoga and breath obviously have a big conjoining together, and but on the scale of breath, I mean, a lot of people have heard of holotropic, which is very similar in the way of how we breathe. The only difference is that when we get clients or when we're doing it ourselves, we breathe into the top of the chest rather than more into the diaphragm, trying to raise that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight response, to tuck into the nervous system, into the subconscious, and move through the blocked energies that are stuck within there. And when we were going through those first times where they were being stored, that was the breath that we were doing. We're in that heightened flight or flight response, and so it's choosing to go back into that. And so this is why the willingness is so important.
Totally. And it's just a form of breath that takes you into a non-ordinary state of consciousness so that you can digest some of these things that have happened, some of these past experiences, some of these stored, stuck and trapped emotions that we are either conscious and privy to or are totally unconscious to. The experiences that may create patterns in the way in which we do things, the experience that create traumas, the experiences that we have lived through and been through and are creating contractions energetically or even creating physical dis-ease in the body. When we can trust the process of trusting our breath and going into these non-ordinary states of consciousness where we can tap into these experiences, essentially like relive them and release them from the body, then it just creates more freedom, it creates more space, and it creates an opportunity for more of what we want in life. More freedom, more safety, more opportunity to express who we truly are underneath all of the conditioning.
Well put, man.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, that's really well put. I think the premise of breathwork, just as a generality, doesn't matter what it is. It's as you said, it's bringing you to an unordinary state that we walk around with every day.
Yep.
And so moving into that unordinary state means we can change things unordinarily for our ordinary state.
Totally. It's like moving through. Well, we all know, we all know the contractions that we have. We all know the things that are holding us back. Most people, if you're listening to this podcast, you have some level of self-awareness, and you have some desire to be free, to want a little bit more from your life, to understand the journey of self-actualization, to understand the journey of evolution, to understand the journey of back to self. Because when we have a look at this journey that we're on, it's like no matter what path you go down, all of it comes back to self-understanding and self-acceptance. And that really is the biggest goal. It's not about being someone different. It's not about being someone that you're not. There can be that aspect of faking it till you're making it, but it's all about just understanding who you are and then operating from an authentic place. And all of these past experiences, it could be childhood traumas, experiences that we had growing up, the things that people have said to us, bullying, wounds, things that happened in the womb, as Mike says. Rebirthing goes deep into those aspects, but it's just about coming to terms to them, because we're never going to change those experiences. We're never going to remove the experience from the timeline, but it's actually just about coming to terms with it, releasing the contractions or the hold or the grip that it has on us, so that we can ultimately be free, so that we can ultimately accept who we are, and so that we can ultimately show up in the world in that way.
If you even just think about us as the human, we're a walking computer basically, and we're full of programs, and there are many things that we get programmed with, and it comes from how our parents were, the genetic code that gets passed through within our structure of our genomes, like epigenetics, that's starting to really fly right now, and switching on and switching off different genomes through your environment. And there's a lot of mind viruses, that get implanted into us, and we kind of get into those states of repeated patterns. And so what breathwork does, and especially rebirthing, it gives it a jolt. It just gives you a little jolt to kind of step outside the line and look at the line that you've been, living. And so when you remove yourself outside of that program, and you look at the program, and then you're in a sense in your own awareness now. You're not just being incorporated inside the program within your life. You've come out and you can see it, and then once you can see it, then you have the ability to go, oh, that's something I don't want to be anymore, or want to have, or want to hold on to. I want to make a change. And then the lessons and learnings from that experience are then what's called integration. So that's where you can then take the tools and the aspects of the heightened level of consciousness for you to go, I'm going to start making some changes about my own behavior. So that's how you can change up your personality, and then that's how you can start to reprogram yourself into a different level, or whatever it is that you want to create you as the self. And it's about disillusioning. What are your thoughts on ego death? Ego death as a whole, as it's kind of known now, and then your own aspect on an opinion on it.
I suppose we go through many deaths. The goal in life is to die.
Yeah.
As many times as possible before we actually physically die. And so that is an ego death. And even when we have a look in terms of the ego, the ego is just the perception of self. It's the story we have around who we are right now. It's the way in which we show up right now based on the level of awareness, the consciousness we have, the understanding we have of these past experiences, these past traumas. So it's the way in which you are showing up now is your ego. So the ego death aspect of it, it's not about killing off self-confidence or like the like egoic aspect of the self, when people see it from it like, oh, he's so egotistical. No, it's actually just killing off the idea we have around who we are. And it could be even killing off the idea, because there's three selves, right? It's who we think we are, who others think we are, and who we think others think we are. And all of that is different. So it's like, you shared something on Instagram yesterday that's extremely pointed. It's not about who we actually are. It's actually about the different perceptions that other people have on us, the different perceptions that we have on other people, and the different ways in which we show up, or the different ways in which people perceive that we're going to show up. And essentially we just match that. So it's like our ego isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just about understanding the operating system that we have right now. And when we go through a rebirth, it's just like removing a subconscious pattern that has created the identity that we have of ourselves right now.
Oof. Oh yes,
we're in it today.
And the ego itself is so good at its job, very good at its job.
Yeah, because it wants to protect us. Like, the mind has one job, and that's essentially to keep us alive and keep us safe. Yeah. Now, quite often the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, the anxiety, stress, the overthinking, the overwhelm, it's like those are essentially just our nervous system and our mind trying to keep us safe. And it can only do that based on past experiences. So it's like the way in which we act isn't exactly based on like what's happening in the moment. It might be based on what's happened to us in the past and the way in which we acted to keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves, that's why when in different situations we might go into different nervous system responses, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or appease, and that might be completely different based on the relationship our nervous system and our mind has with that other person or with that situation. This is why when you're around other people some people that make you feel comfortable, you feel more free, you're able to be yourself, you can express, you can talk. But if there's other people that make you feel uncomfortable because it may be, their way of being, their energetic way of showing up, then we might act differently. We might not show up how we would normally show up.
And this is where, if you're going to your family Christmas each year and you're having the same argument with your brother or your sister or your dad over and over and over again, this is, it gets into that context of what version in their mind are they holding of you? What is it that you haven't been able to either speak about or move through? Because obviously maybe you want to avoid because it's tough, or you just don't have the skills or capacity to be able to do it, or whatever it is. And so that avoidance or that inability to change that patterning, that's the ego. It's going, I don't want to go there. It's unsafe. I will die. And yeah, that little post I shared yesterday about all the, everyone has a different version in their mind of you. Then you start moving into the realms of, okay, well then, in this reality that we are now, then that's a multi-dimensional reality at the same time, because the version you even have of you isn't even the version of you that you think is out there. And then that person, hey, someone might have met you 10 years ago and you run into them. And this is where it can happen if you left, maybe you left your small town or whatever, and you've come back, and there's people that are still doing the same thing or perceived to be doing the same thing as when you left 10 years ago to now, and you find it really hard to meet them. They're still trying to meet you at the same point to connect with you as when they knew you there. That's just an older state of version of you in their minds. But
it's the hardest thing with change, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're not only changing yourself, you also have to have the other people around you accept the change in yourself. And this is why it can be really hard to do work on yourself, because it's like the amount of people that are actually like moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and looking at self-actualization is a very slim number of people. And as we've spoken about before when we were talking about the possible evolution of man, it's like nature will only take people so far. Then there has to be the willingness to want to adapt and evolve. And it's like most people aren't on this planet to adapt and evolve. They're only going to get to that, that basic level of needs and understanding, shelter, food, and money. And not to say that that's wrong, but it's just like, no, that's just where they're at. And so if you're trying to step up and the people around you are wanting to stay the same, then for them to stay comfortable in that place, they also want you to stay the same. They don't want you to adapt. They don't want you to evolve. They don't want you to be thinking outside of yourself or having deeper conversations that may make them have to go through uncomfortable situations. So it's like such a fine art between showing up authentically as yourself as you adapt and evolve and release some of these stored ideas of who you are, and then also just like accepting that some people are some people, you know.
And then this comes down to your strength of your own decision making. You know, if you're going to go back and if okay, here's a great example, and this is just me personally. Like years ago, when I started to get onto the process of removing alcohol from my life and changing that relationship with it, and if the people around you, if they're all doing the same, and you've only connected at that level through going out and drinking with them, and then you decide to be like, actually, do you know what? This is not something I want to change. And my sister and brother-in-law are going through this right now.
Everybody that chooses to step away from alcohol for an extended period of time goes through the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You see everyone around you drop away because they're like, oh, the fact that you're not drinking makes me feel uncomfortable, so I'm just going to, you know, no longer invite you to these things.
Yeah. And then your willpower is a muscle just like everything else. So it's saying no and holding yourself in your stance while still everyone else is doing the same thing around you. Like if you're going to a party and you're like, actually, no, I'm okay for alcohol. I'm okay for a drink. And you might get some people who are just like, no, come on, just this once. You know, the willpower itself is a big muscle. So breathwork can change all of this. It can change all of it. It can give you the power and the courage to be able to start saying no to things because it's not aligning with you anymore. And you're not always going to get it right. You're always going to go, oh, okay, maybe this, maybe that. But that's just the human condition. That's okay. So breathwork, and well, we'll just speak about rebirthing. Rebirthing gets in. It cuts that pattern. Is a pattern interrupter. And so it interrupts it for you to be able to just go, oh, it's giving you like a big shake. You get a big shake and you're like, yes, I want to make some subtle changes. And then the subtle changes over time become huge. It's not necessarily like, I mean, it happens sometimes. All of a sudden it's like, boom, something lands and you're like, yep, I'm not that anymore. That's the death. That's the death of self. And, you know, we've been doing this for many years now. And even now we'll go into a rebirth and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that thing, it's just dropped finally. But it took 4 years and you thought you had a handle on it, then you didn't, and you thought and you didn't, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there it is, you got to stick with it. But for me, it's more in the tiny little changes that are now done in a daily, that create the bigger change over a course of a year, 2 years, 3, whatever it is. And you just keep moving into that and choosing something different rather than being chosen by the pattern.
Totally.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Totally. And it's a beautifully simple process, and I think that's why it can seem overly complicated for a lot of people. And it's like even our evolution is as practitioners, it's like the more you start to work with people, the less you actually realize that you need to do as a facilitator, because it's just like for us as a facilitator, what we're doing is we're just creating a space and a container for people to explore.
And the way that we create that is by going so deep into our stuff all the time.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And then it's just about giving people the opportunity to explore the aspects of themselves that they are willing to, with guidance from us. Now, as facilitators, like we, you know, energetically we can feel into blocks, we can feel into these situations, and for us it's about creating enough safety with the people that we work to, enough trust so that they feel comfortable enough in that container to drop into it, to release it and to let go. And it's just like, you know, it's just like a little goldfish, and it's like this fucking vast black ocean of things that we have to explore. Now, if you're working with facilitators that haven't done work on themselves or have only really done surface level things, there's only a small place for that fish to explore before it hits the edges. And then the deeper you go as a facilitator into your own things and understanding, it's like the more space people have to explore and the less places that they have to hide in you. Now, that's always the beauty of it. It's like the deeper you go, the less places people have to hide in you. And it's like you can notice and see it as facilitators when they're working through different things. If you're working from a place of integrity, that like, all right, cool, like I can see that block in someone, I still have that block in myself. Am I going to be able to help them get through that? Probably not, because I'm still getting through it myself. And that really is the like it just an analogy for the work. So it's like we're just creating a space in a container for people to explore themselves, you know, to shine the light on aspects of this fucking vast ocean, so that they can then light it up and they have more freedom, more understanding, and can come to terms with some of these darker times, darker moments, or darker energies in their life. And then like from there, it's like the beauty is, it's like once you come to terms with a lot of these things that are holding you back, it's then just about elevation and evolution. It's like, okay, how can I expand my capacity even more? How can I understand that the deeper I go into something, or the more I want from life, the more I raise up, that like new devils will come out, like new challenges will arise, new limitations and beliefs and understanding, because if you've never done something before, how can you know how to explore it? So it's like the breath is just giving you the confidence and the freedom to be able to explore those new levels.
Oh man, you're dropping in today.
Oh, we on. We on.
What's your belief in spirituality?
I think all of it just comes back to what I said before, like self-acceptance.
Yeah.
That really is it. Like the first journey is acceptance of self. That's it. All roads lead to Rome, right? And it doesn't really matter what path you're taking. It really is just about self-acceptance. Like acceptance what has happened to us, because you can't change what happened to it. Acceptance of who you are, understanding your limitations, understanding what you're good at and what you're not good at, understanding, like, you know, your family, the ability you have to support them, your loved ones, the ability you have to support them, and like knowing and understanding your own blind spots.
I like that. And then the deeper you're going into the accepting of yourself, then you're accepting more of others around you.
Yeah.
Because then you really get it to the understanding that you aren't your behavior. You know, and so when you can get to this level, then you can start going to your family's Christmas, and if your dad or your sister or your uncle is bringing up the same things, you don't actually have to buy into it anymore, because you've moved into the acceptance of more of yourself, and you can then start to accept them of where they are at.
Totally.
And then more love can flow, because then you can just go, hey, look, it's okay. I don't need to carry this on anymore. I love you. It's okay. And then this is where you're focusing the paradigm inward to you to make changes in your life. Others will see that, then it gives them the permission or the ability to make the choice to go, oh, am I going to stay in this? Or I've seen that this person, or seeing this person close to me, isn't buying into this anymore. There's a change in them, and then that leads them to start asking questions if they want to make a change, going, hey, you know, what are you doing here? Or, you know, it's such a cool paradox to be like, no, focus on yourself to help change the others around you.
Totally. And then it, like, even that in itself becomes really, really challenging and a hard thing to navigate, because especially at the start of the journey, when you're like figuring out all these things, and you're having these like massive breakthroughs,
These awakenings,
these awakenings, you're like, fuck, I need to share this with the world. Everyone needs to know this. Push. I'm just going to push this idea onto you. You need a rebirth. You need a rebirth. Oh, you need to do some inner child work. No. I can see the problems that you have within yourself. But that ultimately just pushes people further away. You know, you're excited about it, but other people are like, fuck, I don't have the capacity to deal with this shit right now. This is not my journey. And then you got to like humble yourself enough to like push it back, and then just be able to read and know and understand, okay, cool, like I can see this person, but maybe can I push them just a little deeper, or they ask a question that gives you an opening, so you can be like, okay, cool, how can I like facilitate you to be able to just expand the way in which you see yourself and the world just a little bit more. It's such an interesting dance between, like, you know, force and power, like trying to force something upon someone and just being in your own power, so much so that it gives them permission to do the same.
And once you kind of get a few years into it, then you're understanding, like, if I could go back and look at my social media from like 4 years ago or even 5 years ago when I started really getting into it, and I was just like, everyone has to do this. You have to do this. Like, this is what you need. Oh, everyone needs to go do a plant messenger. Da 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 da. And hey, look, that's reflecting now. That's part of it.
Totally.
But how I see it now is people would take that as, oh, you think I'm inadequate, or you not think I'm enough. So it pushes them away more.
Totally.
Oh, you think I'm broken and I need fixing, you know? And you just, and all I was, all we were was just excited. Oh, I want you to feel this. I want you to feel the same that I'm doing. I want you to have this change.
100%.
You know, and it comes from a place of love, but the opposite will happen because look, you talk about the ego self of the other person, may perceive that as, you think you're better than me?
Yeah.
You know, oh, what, you're all spiritual now?
Yeah.
Like you've got this thing, you want to change me?
Yeah, totally. Well, and then they also have it hardwired into their mind, the perception of who you are as well. So it's like very, very difficult and very, very challenging to change. So if you are forcing things upon people, they're like, well, no, that's not actually who you are. That's not the reality of who I perceive you to be based off, past experiences. So it's like it can be a slow burn, and we slowly start to see it with friends and family members and things like that. It's like it can be challenging because it's like you see the contractions, you see the challenging things inside of your family members and things like that, and like you may feel what's best, but that's only based on what's been best for you, and that's not for everyone. No.
Well, I'll take my family as an example. I love it. We've all got family, and last year, my dad, he goes, "Oh, Mike, I've been doing a cold shower in the mornings." I was like, "What? Really? That's amazing." He's like, "I've been doing it for 3 months now, and I'm starting to take one before I go to bed." Now that's 4.5 years or 5 years to get my dad into doing something like that. I was like, well done, like amazing. But that was, 5 years of me making a change, and he's starting to do that, and a little bit more self-care, and just outside of just going for a walk and going to the gym, and then same thing with my sister and brother-in-law. They finally came to a retreat and came and had a rebirth, and just seeing the changes and shifts and evolution in their life and family. You rebirthed my sister, who was my other sister, who was in a car wreck about 10 years. Come up 10-year anniversary now, where she got hit by a drunk driver and like snapped her neck. She was in a coma for a long time, didn't know whether she was going to survive. She had to learn to walk again. She was in rehab for 2 years, and lost the sight in one eye, hearing in one ear. She had a tremor down her body, but all these years it just wasn't time enough for her to actually drop in to it. And then finally was the start of this year, she came over and you gave her a rebirth, and it took the tremor away from her body, and she came back a couple of weeks ago and had another one with you, and again she just got to a level of acceptance of where she was in her life. She's like, I actually, like, my life is amazing, and
it was beautiful.
And it's not for us to say any different. It's like, if that's where you're at with that, beautiful. Like that's been the pattern disruptor. First it was like, she's stocked full of trauma in her body, but like that doesn't matter about, she had the experience where it took a tremor away so she can drive again, and it hasn't come back. And then the second time she in the rebirth, the tremor actually came back, but then went away again. But then she just got to a level of like, my life is amazing. She got to a level of gratitude. So it doesn't matter about having to go even more deeper into that. Like she got to a level of gratitude where she can accept her life the way that is, and her life is amazing to her, and she's super happy with it.
Totally.
She's married. She's got a beautiful daughter now, and all the things. So this is where everyone will go in a different level, but this only happened, in the beginning I was like, guys, you got to come and do this. I want to rebirth you, like and it just keep getting pushed back. But it just took many years of me just keep showing up as, me doing my thing, and then they got curious about it. And then the time dropped in, like I remember just before the retreat, I was like, no, it's time for my sister now. I gave her a call, said, look, we've got 2 spots here. Like, I think it's time. And like Caleb, was getting my brother-in-law was getting a surgery on his throat that had to get cancelled, and they're like, well, we've got this money that I don't need for my surgery anymore because it's getting postponed. So they went straight into that. So it's all about timing as well, but you just have the openings of being yourself, and this is where others around you, and this is where people will come and people will fall. People will come, people will go.
We see it with rebirthing clients all the time. It's like some of them are willing to carry on and just keep going to the depths, because that's the journey that they're on, you know. And some people will drop in for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Some people will just come for 1 and they'll get the experience, be like, okay, cool, that's all I needed from it. Some people will go fucking through the depths of it and then want to become facilitators, you know. And it's just like, whatever your dharma is, whatever your journey is, whether or not the path is already laid out and you're merely just following it, or whether or not it's like, no, you're willing to change the path, change the story, and continuously sort of go after it. There's no rhyme or reason to it, whether it's, you know, as you say, like, nature's only going to take you so far. Some people have the ability and willingness to go deeper. Some people it's merely just not their journey and understanding, you know. So it's like, that's the beauty of the breath as well. It's only ever going to take you to the depth of the experience that your body is willing to handle and overcome. And now sometimes that can be fucking challenging. Sometimes you might have to come to terms with an experience that's been so deep in your psyche that you didn't want it to come forward, but the breath will only bring it forward when you're ready to integrate it. Now, that could take 6 months to integrate. It could take a year to integrate. It could take a lifetime to integrate. But it's like, that is the experience. That is the journey. It could be something that just lands in your body straight away, and you leave the experience, like, you're always going to leave the experience free. You're always going to leave the experience lighter, because, you know, you've removed a heaviness, you've removed a burden from your shoulders.
Or even just lying down and breathing for an hour is such a great, just such a great de-escalation for your nervous system.
Yeah, for sure.
Just allows it just to chill out for a bit.
Totally.
You're really present. You're not looking at your phone. You've got nothing else except the breath, and you're actually just opening up all the cellular network within your body. Every cell in your body starting to get woken up and become a little bit alive. And for most people, well, not most people, just for some people, it's the first time they've actually been in their body and felt a little safer in their body for probably their whole life. And it's so powerful to watch. Why do you think it's a spark for some people and not for others? Because we've all got it in us. We've all got the ability to choose it. Or do you not think?
I don't think people do. From what I've learned and like what I've been reading with Hermeticism, I don't think people do. I don't think people do. And that is merely just the fact of the matter. Why that is, who knows? It could be karma. It could be like what your cycle is in this life. Like, why is it that you've landed in this body? Why is it that you chose these parents? Why is it that you chose these specific traumas? Why is it that you've chosen for this to be the life that you try to overcome them and to self-actualize? Who knows, man? It's such a hard thing to land on, like, you know.
It's something I've reflected, you know, over the years a little bit, just because I remember the moment. And it was with a dear brother, Alessandro, and just the whole lead up and the timing of how it happened. And my first rebirth was a hot water rebirth, and I just remember being in that rebirth, and I was breathing for death. Like I came out of myself. Like, I remember I was in the spa, and I came out of myself, and I turned my head, and I could see me. It was really fucking powerful.
It's like remembering and remembering.
Yeah.
You know, you reconnected with probably a past timeline where you've had this experience before, and it like rebooted you or re-jolted you to be like, fuck, I've been so far off my actual life path. This is something that I've actually probably experienced before, or a depth of knowing I've experienced before. And then you're like, that's right. I'm meant to be overcoming all of this shit. You know, and some people might just be in that first time of having that experience. So it might be another life where they have the remembering. It's like, for me, learning naturopathy. It's like giving up engineering, going to India, working with a Swami, working about energy healing, like learning about energy healing, learning about Ayurveda. It's like the first day I sat down with the practitioner and got attuned to Reiki, I was like, I felt this energy before. The first time he started to talk about Ayurveda, I was like, this is information that I already know. Like it was like, for me, it was just like a remembering. Like I've done this before. I've started on this path in a previous life. So it's like the information just like downloaded. And it was just, well, probably like re-uploaded, to be honest. And then same when I had the first breathwork experience, I was like, I've done this. Like, this is it. Like, I've been here before. Like, this is not the first experience. This is the first experience in this life, but this is not the first experience. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, when I finished that hot water rebirth after all that, and I just remember I just had this blood curdle. I mean, obviously couldn't hear it because it was in the water, but I just had this blood curdling like scream just come out of me. And all of a sudden it just went black. Like gone. Yeah, that's it. And then obviously Sandro realized, and this is after a good 45 minutes, an hour of breathing, like I'd gone, keep going through. And then I opened my eyes and he'd rolled me over and I was just looking up and the sun was there and I could just see these yellow beams just coming from the sun and they were just hitting me and I was just in the most, I had been rebirthed. Like I was in the water, I was lying there, I was just like, wow. Like my life had changed. Like from that moment, I got out and then he lived in the most beautiful home at that time and had this lovely view of the Lake Karapio and I just sat on the grass overlooking it and I just, like I was not in my mind, like just actually reflecting on it now, it's actually making me a little bit emotional. It's just, I just sat there. And I was just so present. I had never felt anything like this in this life before. And then I just started to feel sick. And I just was like, oh, like it was like something coming. And I just got up and I couldn't still really walk. And then I went and had a shower and I had to turn it cold just because it was really hot and I just felt sick. And I just sat in the shower and I just purged in the shower. And I came out and I was just I knew that this was what was meant for me. I knew it. And so I just kept turning up for more and more breath work with him. And then he was training the same course that we trained and he finished that. And then I saw him put a post up saying, hey, they're looking for new people. And that moment, I was like, that's me, and signed up for it.
Totally.
So it all the things like that in my life have found me. But what's really cool to reflect on is I had to make a change in the physical first. So I did I was in a pretty dark place. I was taking antidepressants and I was so disconnected from myself. And I was in real estate and I wasn't doing that well at that time. And it was commission only and super survival mode and trying to pay rent and all the things. And then I was like, no, I've got to go get a job. I've got to go get a job. So I started going to job interview and I just wasn't getting jobs that I should have got. I was like, no, this is a me thing. I remember I was standing in my kitchen one afternoon and I was just like, I just got an email saying I didn't get another job. And I was like, I've got to make a change. Like whatever I'm doing right now isn't working. And this is about 3 months after I had actually posted a really raw video of me actually just sitting in my car actually. And I had never really shared to anybody about how I was feeling, taking antidepressants. I was just kind of getting on with it. I was doing the usual, I'll just help others, I will just make sure, and it keeps everyone at arm's distance from actually, from really asking about me. And I decided to put that up online, and that was the first time I shared it. So everybody in my life knew what I was dealing with at that time mentally, mental health wise and all of that. And I got such a huge response from people, and that was amazing. And then 3 months later, I was back into the realm of where I was, cause that heightened sense, and then it dropped again. And so I was standing in my kitchen and I was like, whatever I'm doing right now is blocking me from receiving. And I felt like I had this tinfoil shield around me that was blocking things from happening, and I wasn't getting things that even it should. And I was like, and I was back to, you know, drinking a lot, and I wasn't really training, you know, just in that cycle. And right then and there in the kitchen, I was like, no, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do something different. And I was like, what are 2 things I can focus on right now that will make the biggest shift? And I said, well, I can stop fucking drinking, and I can start training every day again. And so I created this, I went straight onto my social media, and I'm like, well, how do I make myself accountable? I'm like, well, I'm going to post every day. Every day I'm going to post. This is not for anyone else, but just as like as a public accountability. And so I went and made this video. I said, look, you know, I'm feeling pretty down, but I'm going to make some change. I'm going to make some shift, and I'm going to put this out publicly, and I'm going to call it hashtag 100 days to better mental health. And I'm going to not drink every day. I'm not going to drink for 100 days, and I'm going to go to the gym every day for 100 days, and I'm going to put a post up every day. And I fucking did it. Yes. It's still on my Instagram now. It's great. Every day I'll put a photo, day 33. But that was my own physical shift. You've got to make the physical shift first in your life. If you really, you've got to do something for yourself in the physical. That's the first realm that you've got to make a shift in, you know? And so when we have clients, when I talk to people, and they're just like, oh, I'm just so in the chaos of their life. And I said, okay, well, what are small things that you're doing or can do right now that can make a change in your physical realm before you start really getting to the deeper shit?
Totally. Well, it's creating a vessel that is actually capable of dealing with trauma. Because I'm the same with anxiety. It's like when I'm working with clients that have anxiety or stress disorder or any mental health dysfunction, it's like the first thing we actually get into is like the habitual aspects of the physical self, you know, food, movement, you know, stress management, breath work, you know. And it's really interesting because people will always come, they're like, well, I thought I was just going to come and we were just going to talk about stuff. I'm like, no, this is very action oriented, because it's like, why delve deep into all of your traumas if you physically can't contain it? You know, it's going to be harder to deal with mental health dysfunction if you have nutritional imbalances, or if you're not looking after yourself, your energy is stagnant, you're holding on to weight. So it's like you have to shift that physical container first so that you actually have a vessel to be able to hold all the challenging things you're going to go through, because it's heavy and it's hard. And if you're not looking at the physical self and you just dive into it, it's like your nervous system isn't going to be able to actually hold it. You're not going to be able to self-regulate when you have a panic attack or when a trauma comes up. It's like, and then you're not going to have things to lean on every single day to make yourself know that you're showing up for yourself. You know? It's such an important part. And it's like, this can be the issue I feel with, like, you know, psychology and doctors and things like that. It's like, no, they just try to fix a mechanism, or they just go into the mental or the cognitive aspects of the self. But it's like, if the vessel can't contain the things that are going to come to light, it's like you're always going to take steps back. Yeah.
And at that time, I'd been on antidepressants for like 2.5 years, 3 years, and my anxious levels were at all-time high. So sure. I'd sat there and I remember every now and then I might miss a day. And within half a day, I could feel this electric shock like coming up my spine and over into my head, and it just felt so disconnecting. I was just like, whoa, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I've missed my pill today. And so when I started that 100 Days to Better Mental Health, I was like, I am taking myself off these fucking pills because they are not doing anything. You know, I wasn't even about to get erections and things. You know, like there was a whole huge plethora of horrible things they were doing to me, and not taking or not helping me with the thing they said they were going to help with. It's actually making it worse.
100%. Well, the body works as an orchestra, not a solo.
Yeah, and these are SSRIs, and I don't think I had a serotonin issue. No. But anyways, it's another podcast. But so over the course, when I started that 100 days, I took them myself off over the course of 4 weeks, and I did that. I was taking one every day. And then it was like the first week I was like, okay, every other day I'm going to take a half. Then the second week, every other day that I was taking a half, I'm not going to have one. Then the third week I was like, okay, the days I'm having one now, I'm only having a half. And then the fourth week I was like, okay, I'm only having half 2 days a week. And then the fifth week I was like, no more. And that was a tough week, man.
Totally.
I don't even remember a lot of it, to be honest. Now I'm talking about it, and I probably don't even think I've spoken about it, to be honest. It was just I went through it myself. It was all a big blur, and it was about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, maybe 6.
Telling you things to taper off, and it's like you did a really good way of actually tapering it off. You know, as a naturopath, I can't tell people to stop taking pharmaceutical medications, but you know, if they want to, the best thing that you can do is taper off, and then also, you know, use physical activity, use and utilize the breath, use and utilize other well-known nutritional like supplementation that supports it as well, you know, omega-3s, B vitamins, magnesium, you know, making sure that your body's functioning properly so that you can actually overcome the withdrawals.
Well, the reason why I didn't just stop it was because I knew how it felt if I didn't have one.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, oh, fuck.
And it can drive you into some really bad places if you just stop them.
Yeah.
You know? That's how powerful they are in both a positive and negative sense. You know, some people have some great experiences on it and they need it. Some people have not so great. So it's just about understanding where that comes in for you. You know, and 80% of people that are on SSRIs, it isn't a serotonin issue.
Actually, just reflecting on it now, what's really cool is that divine timing is obviously you can't go and sit with ayahuasca or some plant medicines, because obviously if you're taking SSRIs, because that's actually the reuptake inhibitor that's actually in the plant itself, so you can't go and do it. And what's cool is reflecting now on when plant medicines found me, probably about 3 or 4 months after I got into my rebirth journey, after I finished that 100 days, it was out of my system, and when it found me, it was just like, oh, I could just go and I could go and do it,
drop straight in,
and I was able to do that. Yeah, that's a cool reflection.
Okay.
So yeah, that was an interesting time. I haven't sat and reflected on that in a little while, actually, but it was definitely the physical. I had to pick myself up first, like that was it. But it's funny thinking about it now, that level of consciousness that I was then there, like what I'm talking about now never resounded.
No.
Then, because I had no knowledge or understanding of information. I was just like, no, I've got to do something, because what I'm doing, but where that spark came from, I don't know, bro. Like, who knows? You know, like, it was just like, I know I can do better, and I know I can be better, and I actually think that's actually, it's my curse, but it's also my gift as well. It's my curse that will drive me, because I'm like, no, I know I can be better, but it's also my it's gift to drive me, but it's also my curse as well, because then it becomes like you can't do better. It's a self-loathing depreciation thing as well, and so it's this constant battle of like, you know, I know there's more in me, I know there's more, but then there's like, I know there's more.
Well, that's when personal development can become self-detrimental, you know, because if it becomes a need, or as you say, if it becomes self-loathing, like I'm not doing better, then it just becomes a negative, and you know, it just becomes, you know, a negative journey, because you're just chasing something out of need, not out of desire.
Yeah, but honestly, the life of breathwork that we have now, and what it's done for me, and what it's done for you and the others around us, and our clients, and all the people that show up to the things we're putting on, honestly can't even put into words. Like it's inexplainable.
Well, you sort of it's a slow burn, and you sort of see the change in people. Like we had someone that's in the community come up to us at one of the expos in the weekend. It's just like you just see the difference in them, and it's beautiful. Because it's not like we're not trying to do it to make people different. We're trying to do it just so people have more freedom in themselves in their life. And it's like you see the evolution of people that are willing to go into it and keep showing up and keep coming back and take advantage of, you know, the offerings that we have, whether it's one-on-one or the groups or the state change program, or the other communities that we go into. And it's like you slowly start to see them start to piece the puzzle of their own journey in life together. And, you know, breathwork is for us the cornerstone of it. You know?
And if you're listening to this, you've never ever done breathwork before, I invite you just to lie down and just breathe in and out for even just 10 minutes and see how you feel. Don't be afraid of feeling lightheaded. Don't be afraid of, the story of I'm
going to pass out or hyperventilate or
all of that.
Or this is bad or
You're just
what if
breathing.
something too big comes up? It's like, no, your body is more intelligent than that. Your mind will never allow it. And and then you just go through the tools of integrating afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the journey, realistically, right?
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah, it's still going. I mean, you look at our teachers. I mean, they rebirth themselves every day.
Every day.
Every day.
For near 40 years, Michael.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful.
So it is a beautiful journey, fam. And if you are interested, if it has piqued your curiosity even just a little bit, message me or Michael, book in a session, find a breathwork practitioner that might be around you, even if you are outside of Auckland. We can do online sessions, or we can put you in touch with people that may be in the same area as you, or join the state change program, because we literally built that program so that we can guide people through a breathwork at the end, so that we can have a community offering that is just a free experience for people to go into a little bit deeper aspects and have a greater understanding that the power that you have and we all have within ourselves to heal. And as you say, like it's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful thing to allow yourself to slowly go into the depths of who you are and understand who you are and accept ultimately who you are, regardless of what happened to you, regardless what other people have done or said or the way in which they've told you to be.
And then this just reflects back onto a constant theme in our podcast of, when you can move through those things, no one can say anything that will hurt you.
Totally.
Because you know the truth of who you are. You're
100%.
just discovering more and more who you are and who you want to choose to be.
100%.
Aho, brother.
Aho. All right, beautiful people. Ooh, Jinx. You owe me a soda.
And now none of us talk. Hey, have a beautiful week. We thank you for tuning in every week. And as always, we'll have another episode Thursday midnight, comes out every week. And we just love hearing all the different things that you guys message us about after podcasts and all the beautiful stuff. So we thank you. And if you are interested in breathwork, just jump in the show notes. There's plenty of links there you can contact us on.
Aho.
Show.